The return of the Maquis is now inevitable. All of the historical pieces are in place. People have been coming to this channel for 4 or 5 years and asking about the etymology of the name Maquis, M-A-Q-U-I-S. Too many people's phones autocorrect it to Marquis with an R, and that sometimes throws people off, but make no mistake, the Maquis will be returning. Now, I'm sure some of you out there might recognize the young women in this collage of pictures. Do you notice something strange, though? They all seem to have the same look. They all seem to have the same persona. Now, this is, of course, from the series Star Trek, and some are probably wondering, Florida Maquis, why do you mix make-believe stuff from Hollywood with real events? Well, in this particular case, what they were attempting to do in Star Trek was tell a real story that actually happened. Most of the garbage in Star Trek and all of sci-fi is just made up out of somebody's head, but the Maquis were a real group of people in Spain and in France from about the 1930s to about the 1940s during World War II. They were resistance fighters. But Hollywood took the story and put their little curveball on it. See, they wanted to make it about something that it was never about. The Maquis were guerrillas exiled in France after the Spanish Civil War. They carried out sabotages and robberies and assassinations. They fought against Nazi Germany and the Vichy regime. They hid in the Pyrenees Mountains and other mountains, and that's where they get the name Maquis. And that's right here. The term Maquis comes from the French term, which comes from Machia, the Maquis shrubland, a type of biome found in the Mediterranean basin, mostly associated with Corsica. This is where they would hide. It was a term the Germans gave to them. But make no mistake, they are going to return. And I put this collage together specifically because there was one aspect of the story that the Star Trek franchise got right. They were mostly women. Now, reports say they were only 15 to 20% of the fighting force. That's true. But the actual Maquis, the ones that actually made the difference, were women. And make no mistake, I've used this image before. When the collapse occurs, and it is going to occur, things are going to change, and they're going to change radically. Up north, there are going to be 3 options for you to survive, and you are looking at them on your screen. Because businesses are going to flee the north en masse when it hits. It's not a matter of if now. It's not a matter of if the dollar collapses or if crypto is good or not good. You got to remember something about crypto. Crypto is still given its value by how many dollars it can buy. That's the reality. And once the dollar goes, so will go crypto. Where you live is going to matter. If you're stuck up in the north, when this hits, it's going to be very, very bad. It's going to be the equivalent of being stuck in a major city in France when the Nazis roll in. These tent encampments that have started to spring up all across the country, mostly in liberal-held areas, they're going to start to take on a life of their own. They're going to start to create a culture of their own. And there's something coming that I don't think a lot of you are ready for. I don't think a lot of us are ready for. Now, we already have this in Nevada. Should prostitution be made legal? You see, this is the logical end of should weed be made legal? If weed is perfectly safe and perfectly fine, why don't we allow kids to have it? If it's absolutely no detriment to your health whatsoever, why don't we allow kids to have it? And if you think I'm kidding, check out this article. Training sex workers, students, is an abuse of a university's academic legitimacy. That's right. They are starting to roll out classes in colleges teaching sex work. You see, this was the same fallacy that allowed the legalization of medicinal, so to speak. And this guy, who's a writer who studied this kind of stuff, is sounding the alarm, saying this is going to be a bad eventuality if it catches on. Because there's this whole Happy Hollywood, Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman, or Jamie Lee Curtis and Trading Places thing that goes on, and it's not. Now, what does this have to do with the Maquis? Well, real simple. What the Maquis were fighting for in Spain and in France, in the Spanish Civil War, they knew they stood themselves no chance against the Nazis. But they thought if they could hold on for long enough, they could teach the children quietly, for someday sons and daughters might rise up and fight while they stood still. This is what Florida is fighting for. This is what it's all about. This is why we're holding the line. People have glamorized and made famous these shows about survival and being in the resistance and all this kind of stuff. When people get under this level of stress over long periods of time, things happen that ain't so pretty. Go check out Season 1, Episode 2 of The Walking Dead if you want to visit this. See, DC is now the biggest pimp in the world. I use this for another video, and it still applies. They are now hawking to the highest bidder, liberty. Some people think they're going to take it for themselves. It's going to be about money. It's simply going to be about money. And to show you how different things are now than they were in the 1950s. See, the 1950s had people that were preparing for the end too. Here, they show a fallout shelter. Emergency oxygen. Food and water. Batteries. See people dressed. They've got a Geiger counter, a radio, an air exhaust pump, some basic plumbing, a ladder to get in and out. Now let's look at the modern survival bunker. Both trying to show the same thing, but what do you see in this one? Gun cabinet here, gun cabinet here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guns, a dog, and people in tennis shoes and tracksuits. Do you see the difference? Talking about the exact same thing and how attitudes have changed. What happened right before everything fell apart, Spain, France, what gave Germany the ability to do what they do, was the divisions. There were major divisions that occurred in Spain and in France that allowed for that event to occur. There's a reason the Maginot Line failed. And it wasn't that it was a bad strategy. People are going to have to make a decision. What side of the lines do you want to be on? Some people have said, well, it's too expensive this, too expensive that. The price might be far too high in the future. Earlier today, we covered a live event that happened down at the Freedom Tower in Miami. The government of Florida is providing $25 million to restore it. And they were talking about Patria Vida, about freeing Cuba. People need to ask themselves, what happens if it's Florida that frees Cuba, not Washington, D.C.? What if it's Florida that starts to make allies that want to deal exclusively with Florida, not with the rest of what I guess you would call the formerly United States, or D.C. How does that play on the world stage? See, some people like to zoom way out like this and see, oh, this is where we live. This is where we live. This is who we are. It's America. It's the U.S. It's not. It's not, and it never has been. Long-term causes of the Spanish Civil War. History of violence, 19 military coups. Catholic traditionalists versus liberalism. And I brought this up because even Russia supported a Republican government for those areas. Great Depression caused economic instability in Spain. Fear of communism due to the Soviet Union. Popularity of fascism due to Hitler and Mussolini. Redistribution of land to the poor peasants. Elections. There's going to be a time when a choice is going to have to be made. And the choices are not going to be easy. But the time is getting closer and it's getting shorter. We watch all this garbage going on CNN and all the crap with this trial or what this president's doing or that president's doing. The world's sitting back and watching. And when empires fall, there will be those who swoop in. And it ain't going to matter about ballistic prowess. It's going to be a matter of planning and decision making. And like they say in real estate, location, location, location. The name Maquis literally is a location. It's not a person. It's not a series. It's not even a belief. The Germans gave them this name because they could disappear and reappear and disappear again. Look up the Spanish Maquis. Look up the French Maquis. Look up what they were willing to do. What they were willing to do when things went south. This is going to have long-term effects on our country. Long-term effects of this region. And I am glad every day that I live in the Republic of Florida, not in the rest. Because something is coming nobody is ready for. A complete shift in moral value. And I'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe. God bless, and we'll see you guys next time.